This is what's left on my $100,000 car.
Road accident.
Terrible accident.
Road accident.
And this is what happened to it. This is an unusual video for my channel, but I want to tell you this story anyway. I'm going to tell you the story of my car, which I loved very much. I even found this car now, and you'll see what happened to it in 5 years. We'll go to the scene of the accident itself and do our own investigation. So watch to the end, the video will be interesting. Let's start from the beginning. 2017. I'm 17 years old, I'm sitting on a website selling cars, and I see a Corvette. I fell in love. It became my dream car and my goal for the next few years. And here it is, 2018, January. I see a car on a website that is perfect for me. I immediately fell in love with it, but I was still short on money. I immediately called the owner of this car, found out all about it, and worked even harder to earn money. And then, on the 7th of March, I'm going to a neighboring town with money to buy my dream car. It was like a dream. I couldn't believe that I was going to buy a Corvette. I was happy. Too bad it didn't last long. Now I'm at the very scene of the accident. I've driven by here hundreds of times, and how this accident have happened at this spot. I buy a $70,000 Corvette, loaded on a tow truck because it was on summer tires and there was a lot of snow around, and drive it home. The next morning I wake up and I can't believe my eyes. I have a $70,000 Corvette in my yard that I earned myself. By the way, if you like this video, write in the comments and I'll tell you how I made my first $1 million at the age of 20. 6th April 2018. It was my 18th birthday. And on this particular day, the weather was just perfect. It was warm enough and there was hardly any snow. It seems like the best birthday ever. I get on a Corvette and ride it out for the first time. It wasn't a manual gearbox, which I had hardly even driven before, so I found it quite difficult to shift gears the first time. I only rode it for about 5 miles, came home, washed the car and was happy. At that point, I couldn't even imagine that exactly 2 months later, I would be in a terrible accident and my car would be destroyed.
For a whole month before the accident, I was very anxious. I felt like something was going to happen. I was very worried about Villain.
I don't know how it happened, but I drove this car for exactly 2 months, from 6th April to 6th June. Let's go back to the day and I'll tell you how it was. 6th June 2018, 7 AM. I wake up. I have a tough day ahead of me. I'm driving to take a school exam. The day before, I drove my other car, a Chevy Camaro. By the way, it's my first car. It was on this particular day that she stood first at the gate. If I had decided to drive it, the accident might not have happened. But on this day, I decided to drive the Corvette, so I took 5 minutes to drive the Camaro away and drive the Corvette.
He was away for an exam that day and I was very anxious.
I pull out and 3 miles later there is an accident. I didn't even realize it at first. The airbag had gone off, my nose was bleeding and the door of the Corvette wouldn't open for some reason.
Then I dozed off. I was woken up by his phone call. He said just a few words to me. "Mom, I've had an accident. I'm fine." I was shaking and I didn't hear anything else.
I start to climb out the window. A man immediately runs up to me and starts helping me. Thanks him for that.
I called a taxi and drove to the scene of the accident. My phone was ringing off the hook. Everyone was calling, acquaintances, friends, relatives, teachers.
I'm in complete shock, I don't understand anything. I immediately started calling the police and at that moment I saw that the driver of the second car was unconscious. He had hit his head hard because he was not wearing a seatbelt. But the worst thing was that there was a woman with a child in this car. Then it turned out that the driver of the Renault was not wearing a seatbelt, which is completely unacceptable. always wear your seatbelt. The good news is that the woman and the child were not injured, but the driver of the Renault is unconscious in intensive care. Immediately after the police took my alcohol and drug test, we went to see him at the hospital, but it was not yet known whether he would survive or not. I am insanely grateful to the Corvette manufacturers for making this car so strong, because the next day I did a full body scan and it had nothing but bruises. There is a pavement running through here and a bus stop very close by, so it's usually very crowded. And the accident happened early in the morning, when everyone is traveling to work and school. It was lucky that nobody was walking on the pavement at that moment. I crashed into these steps and then I had to repair them at my own expense, which increased my expenses because of the accident. A few days later, we received a call from the driver's wife informing us that he had already recovered and was on the mend. This was great news at the time, but it became known that the driver had hit his head very hard at the time of the accident, and it would take him about 6 months to fully recover. But who was to blame for the accident? To do that, we need to go back to the crash site. We are now on the road I was traveling on that day. This side was me, and this side was Renault. I was going straight ahead, and the Renault driver wanted to turn off this road here. This is a main road, so the Renault driver was obliged to let me pass before turning. To be honest, I think the Renault driver just didn't see my car due to inattention. Therefore, I am not at fault in this accident. But I also broke one rule. I didn't have a driving license at the time of the accident, for which I had to pay a fine of $250. After the accident, I decided to sell the car, as there was no point in repairing it, and I sold it for $20,000. After that, I immediately decided to buy the exact same one, but unfortunately I never did. I just couldn't find the exact same one on sale. And 6 months later, I bought my first Lamborghini. Write in the comments if you're interested in how I bought a Lamborghini Huracan Performante. But here I am 3 years later seeing a very similar car on a website with cars for sale. I decide to write to the seller and immediately get a reply. It turns out that this is the same car I crashed 3 years ago. They fixed it up and it's running again. I was very pleased. We called the owner, met, and this is how they fixed it. Turns out that the person I sold the Corvette to never got it fixed and resold it to other people. They bought the exact same Corvette but with a broken rear end and made one car out of two. It was just gorgeous. He invited me to take it for a drive, but as the Corvette itself was in another part of the country, I never went. But since I've started making videos like this, I just have to go and shoot the already made Corvette for you. After 2 years, I called the owner of the Corvette again and asked if they sold it or not. To which they replied that the car is in their possession. I'm very happy. I'm already imagining getting behind the wheel of my Corvette again and driving it at least 1 mile. But the owner says it unfortunately can't be done because the Corvette is broken again. I have nothing to say. It's just awful. I bought this car, drove it for 2 months, wrecked it, then sold it. The guys fixed it for almost 3 years, then immediately wrecked it. How is that possible? When I saw these photos, I was just shocked. I don't even have anything to say. I feel really bad for this car. This time the driver just didn't control the car and hit the pole. The most important thing is that no one was hurt. Now this Corvette is being repaired again and it won't be long before it's back on the roads. I really hope that there will be no more accidents in its life.
I don't wish anyone to relive those moments until I saw with my own eyes that my child is okay.
This video has come to an end. I hope you enjoyed it if you made it to the end. Give us your likes and comments. Bye.